Welcome on to another video, and today we are looking at what if the resistance started over, and as we can see it's episode 10.5. That's if we are on the same stuff as before. Wait, let me just test some stuff. There we go, it's working. And last video we saw the conclusion of the Southern Italic Wars and the Sardinian and Sicilian Wars. We will today see more nations getting their sovereignty in this world, but also we will see some interesting new nations in different spots this time spawning in, like you should say. But thank you guys for watching the last episode. I don't know if you guys want a episode 10.75, because I have some stuff I want to also add more, like in lore wise. But let's get straight into this with me discarding the year time thing, maybe. I don't know. But like by the time that all of this ended, it was like, wait, let me just edit this real quick. And this is what we have. This is the number that we have. It's 544. Yeah. And by this time, the world of nations in the Mediterranean has arrived, as well as on the Black Sea coast, and the Adriatic Sea and the Aegean Sea has caused a lot of stir, especially with the creation of two large nations, one that is very expansionist and very successful, and another that is just trying to exist and destroy whatever gets in its way, that is. We quickly see that control of the Adriatic Sea's access point being of Albania and this Naples nation that recently made some gains in the form of this area, and this area, has caused the Adriatic Sea to become a controlled area, and new nations really much want to pop up along this coast, although they can't set straight. It's very small, and we also saw this nation kind of just lose their entire existence basically, and this nation kind of just got carved up, as we can see. That they just got carved the hell up. But we're going to see another war, and we're also going to see some new nations pop up. So please stay tuned for what we have going on. In the months that led up to the invasion of this nation, people started to take boats from this area. They sailed with some of their ships into this town area over here, and then just escaped through that. And eventually most of the people who were here escaped either by going into this nation or by running into this one that got, lack of a better term, got split up quite fast and got fallen real quick. And once it fell, the people just took a lot of boats and sailed to the Bosniak areas, or Croatian areas, as you would like to say. We also see that due to this, we have a few nations of this one old people starting to come into existence. Now, as we can see, if we look at this, there's a lot of Italic peoples here, and these Italic peoples are Italic by right. And, as we can see, there's a mix of Albanian nations and, this nation is Italic while having a Albanian colony, basically. Very normal. But we quickly see that this nation over here will become quite large as it integrates the local Italic peoples into its own regions and starts to become quite large. and from it two more nations spring up into existence. The first one being this other red nation, although it's smaller and doesn't really have much going for it. It appears to be a scouting party of people from this nation to, well, inhabit these lands. Most of these people are still Italic, while some are actually from Albanian territories or even from Carthaginian origins. Then we also see that another nation, this time purple colored, will actually pop up over here and will actually be one of the most important nations to actually exist, as it quickly makes itself known as a very expansionist nation, as it quickly just takes around the areas around it and causes Venice to actually panic about their long-term gains in this area, and it also makes them quickly think twice before going into this area in some way. We also see that due to this, a lot of these nations over here and over here in these two areas seem to actually want to do a lot of new things, and eventually we also see this nation over here being annexed into the other nation, causing not much to happen, but we also see that this nation over here just expands a lot, making themselves quite large and becoming the only Bosniak nation. We also see that after this they will expand on the coasts over here and stop around this region over here, where we already see a lot of exploration and expansion has been done by this Montenegro nation. Montenegro in this setting is quite a different nation. It's not as well it would be known for, and it's becoming quite a large nation, and it has even gone on a conquest of some lands, particularly in these areas where it had done a few annexation raids, where it had annexed these areas and then afterwards gone off after some other regions just to bolster its own territory and make its own people a bit larger. Although it is a bit larger now, it's still Italic by nature. We also see another nation coming into existence. This time this is known as Thracia. Thracia will actually be created in this village over here, which will quickly subjugate two villages over here and here, although it won't be able to go over here as the local peoples do not like them, and they will only be able to slowly go up over and get into the areas around them. But that's all. And seeing this nation over here becoming a actual thing, the people over here just quickly unite into one nation and quickly start to do one thing, and that's expanding into other villages. These villages are quickly known as the larger Commonwealth. Well, not the larger Commonwealth, but would be called the larger Commonwealth by the new by the larger nations in the future, who would, well, very much see this thing as a Commonwealth, and they would just call it that. But its true name is the Union of Villages, or the Union Villager. Sounds like villager. Yeah, kind of like that. But we also see this little village nation coming into existence, well, village state, and we also see another one coming into existence, this time a bit bigger and a bit larger, although it's still very small in its own right. But quickly seeing all of this happening, many village states start to emerge, either from pressure from other nations or, well, pressure from other states. They actually become nations, and most of these actually manage to become two nations at once, or even make their own large groupings of nations. And we also see that Izmir becomes a actual thing over here, as the Izmirian people start to quickly take over the surrounding Turkic peoples and start to assimilate them into their own culture and their own little people. Now, I haven't put a culture down, but if I were to put a culture down over here, we would see something like this over to the areas near here, going up to somewhere like over here. perhaps even more, but this is the main religious grouping of peoples. And quickly we see that the religions over here will be very different, as we can see. Even though the local Turkic peoples do not like the Rhodes peoples or the Rhodians, we do see that the Rhodes peoples actually practice the same religion as these other guys. Although Montenegro is mostly not culture-wise large, we do see that it does have some culture, and same with Thessaloniki. Although the Turkic peoples are actually kind of mixed over here, as they have different beliefs in their other cultures, and they have different cultures all over. We also see that over here there's a mixed kind of culture, and we also see a Carthaginian culture beginning to come into existence over here. Although it's large and only very young, it's quickly becoming the main dominant culture. And we also see over here it also becomes quite well known by the local Sardinians, and even over here in Sicily. Even in the island areas of the nation over here, it becomes very known, and we quickly see some other parts of the peoples of Carthage, Carthaginian peoples, take up this culture. A lot of them actually do so because they really want to have similarities to their father nation, as they call it, as new generations really much want to call their their new leaders the true rulers, or the true leaders of their country. And they think that the country has existed for a while. It hasn't. It has actually. It's very old. The Carthaginian nation is quite old, but it's in the terms of cultures very young. And as we can see, there's larger cultures all over the place, but these newer cultures are what have come around in the Sapien areas. And even some non-Sapien people will actually start to take over these religious beliefs, although they're very mixed in their belief structures. They will start to think differently than the rest of the people, and we quickly see a large cultural group over here sparking up into existence. Even over here in the areas of here, there's some people. But quickly going away from the culture, we do see that the Izmirian state over here quickly starts to become larger and larger, and eventually starts to develop its first very well nation the identity, and even starts a small campaign to go over here to Rhodes and starts to beat their ass. Not metaphorically, they do so very, very literally. They even go up here and start to do a lot of bad stuff, like cutting off a few of these new villages from actually gaining their nationship or stateship. And currently it's known as the Ismailian lands over here are quite unlikable, but for the people in them that are new to the lure, they are very, very liking of this. Even the Turkic peoples don't like them that much, but we quickly see some very, very interesting things happening, like this weird combobulation of nations. And we quickly also see that due to this large combobulation of nations in the Aegean Sea, we also see that, well, the area is known as the Sea of Nations. Well, the coastal nation thing. Well, something like that. We also see that these two, Venice and should I call it Valensis or something? I don't know what it was called. But Genoa, I think I'm just gonna say Genoa over here. The Genoan areas over here will start to actually fight back against their new leaders, and will actually manage to hold on to their identity, even somehow gaining their own identity. through sheer lack of another word, through beating other people up. And they do so very, very likably, as people see them as great mercenaries. They are very good fighters, and when people kind of hire them, they are tasked to do one of the deadliest jobs, either assassinate people or something like that, and they kind of take the tasks up regardless of the danger, and then that kind of causes them a bit of harm. But we can quickly see that due to Venice's large population, Venice will go on a bit of a conquest down the Adriatic. We quickly see that they will actually land over here, taking over this town over here, and quickly its 2 villages, and they will try to subjugate this nation, but most of it will kinda not like say, oh, we're gonna be subjugated, we're going to comply. Most of it says, no, we're not gonna help you, screw you, and these two kind of sustain each other, but eventually these fall over. Quickly we also see a invasion of Venetian troops over here on this village state, and also invasion by naval landings over on this area over here. Smaller boats are lifted into the water, ascended into the water or descended into the water. And quickly we also see that due to this large surprise attack on the people of Albania, massive amounts of Albanians will actually die in the result of this. But the Venetians don't really care, as they quickly go on an invasion of this nation, causing the Greek nations to actually gang up on the Venetians, who are seen as the great invaders, and they are known as the invaders of this area. But Sparta will see them in a good light, as they quickly ask for some lands in return for helping the Venetians, and the Venetians to take up the offer. Quickly we see some Spartan troops actually surround this town over here, taking it over, and over here they do the same with the coastal areas, although they leave the last village over here to the Venetians. I'm kind of editing this, these guys don't push them back or anything, they're kind of allies currently. And quickly we see that after this, the Venetian peoples will get, Venetian army will get attacked over here, but they will quickly push them back, and even some Spartan troops come to help, although it's already too late as this guy kind of just collapsed. Quickly we see that after this, large swaths of land will be given to Sparta, who will quickly ask as these areas over here if they want their independence. These areas over here are these 5 villages over here, and they actually want their independence. They don't like Athens, and so they declare their independence, and even some declare that they are pro-Spartan peoples who are seeking their full-on freeing of the peoples over here. And quickly we see that due to the surrounded Athens people over here, the surrounded Athenian people are quickly pushed out of their areas, and even over here some of these guys are out through these guys' lands, and they kind of start to wreak havoc on the Athens nation. Although a relief party of a few hundred thousand over here come out to help, it's futile, as the rebellious people do not want to be subjugated, and quickly they launch an invasion into this country, causing it to see very many stability problems, as its people now see the prospect of smaller nations actually becoming stronger, and actually cutting off some nations. And Thrace will actually take up the opportunity to ask these guys to invade this guy, with them in the lead. And by in the lead I mean that the Thracians just propose invading this guy, and both of these guys agree, and they take what they actually got to invade. And quickly we also see that this area is forced to be given over to the Spartans, and quickly we also see that after a Athens-led counterattack over here managed to retake most of these areas before allowing some of these areas to kind of give up on this nation. We see that these areas over here are forced to comply with the Athens people, but most of these areas are actually annexed into the Spartan nation, and some others are also taken in as refugee peoples or just annexed, which kind of goes against what these guys actually wanted to happen, but they are okay with it. They really don't care as long as they are allowed to stay in one nation that is better than the other one that they had to deal with. They are fine. They are very damn fine. And this guy over here had to face actually a rebellion over here of its own, and quickly we also see that this rebellion actually managed to do some actual damage over here, but had lost its southern areas to a counter over here, a counter attack to be honest, that actually managed to, well, become a nation. This counter rebellion, I don't know. But we quickly see due to these new nations coming into existence, this nation over here will become very weak, and quickly it will be unable to take control of the situation up north, and it will lose its northern holdings. Quickly we see that Thrace will pounce on these guys, but I like these guys' borders, so I'm actually going to yeah, this is what's going to happen to them, and this guy over here just takes the rest, which kind of causes these two to have a buffer state between them, and same with these two who have multiple buffer states, well, two buffer states to be honest. And quickly we also see a last thing of political importance, and we quickly see that a a new Thracian nation will come into existence, although this one will be recorded as a fourth nation, and these areas already were kind of subjugated by a long time ago. A invasion of these larger guys, of this larger nation, was kind of thought of, but an invasion of these guys was first done by the larger guy. So we have larger Thrace against Istanbul. So Istanbul will actually see large amounts of its lands being lost before a battle was fought over here in eastern Istanbul, where we see a large counterattack leading the Thracians out of the Istanbulian nation and quickly costing them all three of their villages and their entire country, which has quickly become one Thracian nation. And a Ismirian invasion over here into these areas prior to the war had been stopped and reversed into the Ismirian nation, quickly giving these guys a very rounded appearance, which will actually help them because another nation kind of took place before they could kind of do anything about it, because they don't really want any more nations on their border. This one was just one village that kind of just decided to do their own thing, but quickly we see that Thessaloniki will demand some lands for them. Thessalonikian demands are met, and then they do that again until these guys say, no, we're not gonna give you more land. Then Izmir does the same, and eventually this guy is like, you know what, we're just gonna create a buffer state between us and these areas. And they quickly do, and they actually manage to make this area quite a dangerous region to be in. And as you can see, large amounts of land are given over to the Thracian peoples, who are now in control of this area. Izmir will also do a lot of expansion, seeking to take control of its neighbor areas. As we can see, it will go after its border villages that are on its border or somewhat close to its border regions, and it will quickly go into these areas, taking out this village over here before it can actually mobilize its troops. Around this time, the word troops comes into existence, but only for the Greek and Italic peoples. everyone else doesn't know what the meaning of troops does, but they just say warriors to be more exact. We quickly see that Ismerian gains over here become quite large, and they kind of become like the called like a horde, like a Mongolian horde. But they quickly prove to be not so strong, as over here their last defense, their last attack was around here, and they were repelled quite far before being forced to only take these two last areas over here, last villages. And they were also eventually pushed out of these areas where they were forced to give up on taking these. Over here we also see a liberation force of tribals or village peoples who actually managed to take over all this area, and eventually we see that Ismerian troops will actually start an invasion over here in the roads, and Rhodes will actually not respond to it because the Turkic peoples are very much on the side of Rhodes, and they were not Rhodes on the side of Izmir taking them over rather than having Rhodes kind of rule over them. But this village actually has been defended, and when it was taken it was a huge blow to these guys, the Rhodes people, and we quickly see that the rest of these areas are kind of taken with minimal casualties for the, well, Izmirians. Quickly we also see Izmir will actually become quite important of a nation, as it is one of the most populous in the Aegean Sea, and as we can see, Athens is blushing about how powerful these guys are. These guys have lands over here, they control the trade routes over here, even though if they had this village over here they have control it fully, but they don't, so yeah. But we also see that due to a completely unrelated attack by some pirates, the already down the drain stability of this region causes this area to actually bail from Izmir. Izmir does manage to make a retaking of this area, but quickly the pirates managed to outflank them and actually take some of their mainland, which they managed to actually push back. And quickly we see that this nation quickly becomes a actual nation, becoming one of the largest, and quickly giving itself over to Thrace, who kind of just organized all of this. And also around this time Thrace had actually expanded its gains over here, and well made this into one new nation, calling its this puppet the Eastern Thracians or Northwestern Thrace, and this is the true Thracian areas. Quickly we also see that the Thracians will actually go after this guy's island and actually its mainland too, quickly taking over these areas. But before they could fully take these areas, we quickly see that they will actually not be able to kind of hold on to them fully, because these guys kind of jumped on the idea of, oh, these guys are gaining land, how about we do the same? And they did so, and they did take some land. Quickly we also see due to this area they become the leading power of the sea over here, this strait. And well, how do I say this? They quickly just know that yes, they are like very powerful over here, but when you look at the south and the west, you see two very powerful nations, and when you look over here, you see even more powerful nations who are kind of just doing whatever they want to. So and wanna know what they do? They fund these guys to do whatever possible. They just fund expeditions. So the expeditions go like this: they just send out people in boats, and these people will settle in parts that are on village areas, well, don't have any villages in them, and they quickly just go into the countryside, convincing villagers over here to abide by the people's religion, well, culture, or just by the nation's rules that whatever they have. And they quickly take over these areas, and they take over a lot. And we quickly see that over here, this guy over here. Oh my god, this looks. Did I Jews the same? Jews. Oh my god, we have the Jews. But we do see that these people over here, these the Union of Villages of Constantinople, will Constantinople. I'm just gonna call them the Constantes, because why not? And we quickly see that these areas are kind of taken over by them, and they take this over quite fast, and they actually manage to also make a small snaking maneuver over here, only to just kind of take these 5 villages into their, well, union. They did not force them, they just took them. And quickly we also see that over here, the Thracians kind of make this a colony, although quickly they see problems in their stability, so they are forced to give back some of their areas over here to the local people, who quickly see this as a weakness and use it to their advantage to do a lot of damage to the local people. Most of these guys are gonna be in pairs of 2 villages, but this just shows you how bad the Thracian people are at commanding just 2 completely different peoples. Well, not peoples different or anything like that, but people in general. And eventually they will only be able to hold on to one last village that will be basically their lifeline over here, because it has the connections over here that they really don't want to lose. Although they lose them regardless. And quickly we see that due to them losing this area over here, they quickly also lose access to the lands over here for expansion, and this nation kind of just expands over here, and people from around the areas over here start to flock to these 5 villages and make currently what is known as one of the first towns over here. To be honest, one of the first towns actually manages to be on this area, not anywhere else. And we kind of see another town over here, and I'm just gonna give them all towns, because then we know where the capitals are. This also becomes a town, if you didn't guess. Also, this becomes a town. Why? It has close areas. Actually, I'm gonna give this because it's like passage becomes very, very good for trade. And we also see another one of these becoming like that. I'd say Izmir has already done a lot of expansion, so they might have made a few things over here. But we quickly see that the first city to actually exist, the larger ones, one of the first cities to be made, is on the side of these guys, and they quickly use its lucrative spot to make it a capital city. And it was taking like a long time to say this, but this village is like the center point for, like, if you wanted to go over here and then wanted to straight all the way over here, the fastest route, go over here, go from here over into the water, go over here. Like, you could take like our detour, go straight to them, but you would run out of supplies, even though there is a town over here. And so people just kind of went over here, met the local people, then they went a bit long way south, and they went over to the village over here and just went over there. Which cost the roads to actually get a lot of money from this business that they were holding. But these guys got a lot of money. And the people that didn't make back to the ships, well, those ships were not even the peoples, they were Izmirian. You can see what I'm getting at. The Izmirians were profiting from getting owners of the ships to kinda agree to leaving their ships behind, saying that they will protect them, and if you lose your ship, we'll just give it to your family. That's what they just said, at least. But actually, what they did was kind of the opposite, and they didn't really do much. But we quickly see that this city, even though it's the first of its kind, it is known as the first step towards something very, very beautiful. And we're actually getting closer and closer to the desired timeline as I'm going to check right real quick. There is someone over here, Namor. Namor. He was born in 502, so in 42 years time in this real world, a person is born. So it will see. I think next episode will be that about around the end of it will be around the time that we get into the areas over here, and we get a lot of stuff going on around here. So we're going to be, for the next few episodes, we're not going to talk about anything going on in like explorations of the ethnicities, but more like we're going to talk about these areas. And yeah. But guys, if you really want to see more of this, I suggest you hit the like button and click that subscribe button, so it can help me know that you guys really much like this. And I'm not ending the video here yet, but just giving you that little thing to talk about. We also see a quick Egyptian state actually forming over here. Although it's small, it actually takes the area that is Alexandria and push modern day Alexandria, and uses it to push out into these areas, taking the people of the coasts on their own lands. And quickly, once they reach the desired area over here, they will actually use the boats that they actually have in their arsenal to land over here and do whatever they actually want to do. Some of these people will actually say, you know what, how about we just make this a colony of ours, and they make their first colony that is not that far away from them, but quickly it causes the Sudanese people over here to panic and take some land over here. And around this time is when Carthage kinda starts like sending out raiding parties to raid the peoples over here out of their own lands and homes, and then they just take over these areas, saying that, oh, there's no one living here, we're just gonna inhabit these areas with their own people. And if you look at ethnicities, this causes a very large shift. This causes a very large shift in perspective for these people. And as you can see, it causes also some large differences between the two people. The Berbers over here are also forced out of their areas due to these due to these attacks on their own lands. But also over here, in this area, we see sadly the local Sardinian people are starting to die out. Due to famines and not being cared for correctly by their occupiers, they are not cared for at all, and the Maltese actually lose their population on the island entirely. But these people actually manage to survive and will begin to make journeys around the world. And as we can see, there's a lot of different peoples. This map is larger and like size and whatever this thing is than anything else over here. But we also see that the local Italic peoples start to actually move into these areas and also start to do other areas, other things to the Sardinians. And quickly we see that the Sardinian peoples will actually start to actually be assimilated into these areas of the other Italics. And the Italics will actually use this to their advantage to actually take over all of the Sardinian peoples and assimilate them forcefully. Forcefully or not, they just do so. We also see that another ethnicity will actually start to form up, And if we look at these areas on the unknown areas, I may have said otherwise that we're not that it's going to be very different on what we're going to do for the video, but we're just gonna do some other stuff real quick. We quickly see that a large portion of these guys of these Chinese people will actually start to push east westward to do what is known as the Great Migration. So the Great Migration is known for its name, not for what it means, and it's said to be one of the greatest events in these areas' history. And quickly we also see all of these areas kinda just being found out about. And we also see that over time people will start to go over here and discover that, wait, there's land over here. And like I said, over time people will start to discover that there's still something over here. They will discover land, but when they hit the water over here, they're like, please don't tell us this is a entire damn island. And sadly for them, they actually find out it's an island. But even though they didn't wish for such a thing, they already were islanders. So they're just gonna do some stuff, like allowing another people to take control of the rest of this island. Not like that. Not like that. My God, brothers, what the hell am I doing? Please tell me. Please tell me what the hell am I doing? And we quickly see this Eastern Taiwanese and this Western Taiwanese people kind of emerging. And quickly we also see that over time a larger amount of people over here will actually start to come to actually expand over here, not do the thing that I just accidentally might have said. The dirty mind of some of you that might be in this thing, but I'm not gonna accuse anyone. Looking at myself because I'm accusing myself at this point. But we quickly see that all of this is discovered nicely and without fuss. And some of these southern Chinese areas over here down south are also kinda inhabited, even though kinda don't have to, but it did. So yeah. We also see large amounts of these northern Chinese peoples actually going over here and beginning their own sedimentation of these areas, although they do so with grace, well, not grace, but they do so very happily, because more land, more people, more land, more land, more people. It's kind of an endless cycle, and they actually like this process. Most of them that actually go over into this area actually don't stop going this way, and eventually they will break off into a different people known as the Mingyong by the people over here. Yes, they have a Chinese dialect or something similar to Mandarin, but what the Mingyong means, I'm sorry if it means something else in Chinese, Mandarin, Japanese, or Korean. For anyone who watches this, I'm not I am ethnic Estonian IRL. I live like in this part of Estonia, this large part of Estonia, not this part. This is already Russia in IRL, but yeah, I live in these parts, real Estonia. And I sometimes make joke of you guys, but East Asian brothers, you are great, you are funny, and Chinese, I hope you topple that guy named Beijing. In not the worst way possible. That's already too much to say. But we see that Mingyong people will actually be known for not their expansionist policy, but for the policy of if you find around, if you fuck around, you will find out, and that's their policy. the northern Chinese will actually start to also go into some southern Chinese lands and actually will actually start to inhabit these, causing some very interesting ethnic divides between the two people. Kinda don't know how this would occur, but it would kind of cause a bit of a stir between the two guys. Although a ethnic mix over here would start to emerge, only a small part of it would actually be, Northern Chinese. Quickly, we also see some other people over here taking control of the areas over here, and we also see that the Koreans and the Manchurians will do whatever they actually do. And whatever they actually do is expand, expand, and expand. Except for the Manchurians, they expand, kill, expand, kill, expand, kill each other, and then have children, and wait until the next generation comes along and kills them, or they kill the next generation, or something like that. The Manchurians are very, very nomadic people, but they are nomadic horse people. Nomadic horse riders. Yeah, it's kind of funny about what happens around here. But we quickly see that due to this Korean areas quickly being discovered and inhabited by the Koreans themselves, some of the Koreans over here will actually start to kinda being visited by weird peoples who actually come in and die as they actually arrive. And some of these are actually all the way from Arabia. Those guys who come all the way from Carthage, they don't even make it. They make it all the way over to Africa, go into South Africa, get killed by the locals. Or they make it over here, don't get killed by the locals, but what happens is that they kinda kaput. Yeah, they die. Syphilis or whatever. Animals, whatever. They just die. And the Indians and other people who are over here are actually talking about news of nations over here from the Mediterranean, and even people from, Mesopotamian areas who actually started to kind of travel out. Speaking of Mesopotamian, I haven't actually talked about them for a while. Wait, let me just... Yep. Let me just quickly expand these guys a bit. There we go, they are a bit expanded. And now we can quickly get back to what I was talking about, because I really want to talk about some stuff before time runs out for me. As you guys know, I have multiple times had time run out, and I don't like it. And I just can't do whatever I want to do. That's something I don't want to happen. But we see that after all of that has happened, a large amount of people will actually start to talk about, something very weird. Some of these southern Korean peoples start to talk about making their own little thing over here, a large grouping of people, or just starting to make their own things over here. And we quickly see two distinct groups come into the world, where one says the southern ones are unionists who want to unite all of the Korean peoples and just keep them themselves, so the unionist isolationist, while the northern redder people are actually kinda, how do I say this? Well, they're highly expansionist, highly hostile, and they're highly imperialist. They do not care who it is, what they are, what their intentions are. They will kill regardless. And just to keep in mind, this is the medieval, pre-medieval times. These are the ancient era. We're still in the ancients. So quickly we see that these two groups, one that is smaller and one that is larger, will fight each other in a large clash of peoples. And quickly we see that due to this, we have a large amount of red team people, and blue team people are just fighting each other to the death. And the blue team people actually manage to do a lot, but they lose their main areas. And quickly we see that due to this, both peoples kind of just gather over into nothing as they lose everything. After like 20 years, in which the 20 years that all of this happened, because I'm like going back in time a bit, we see that around this, the arrival of 41, was it 41? No, 45, the year 45. Some of these Korean peoples actually managed to reform a southern Korean people's nation, and quickly they claim dynasty status. Dynasty status means that they actually have claims over whatever they desire, and they can. At this point, dynasties and everything are kind of different in this world than they are in our world. Like the Ming dynasty, that was, I don't know what that really means, but they usually are used for like large scale empires, and this is no different. Where we actually do see a lot of fighting between multiple different dynasties. We have the Hu dynasty. Yeah, Hu. I would have accidentally said something Russian right there that I would have regretted, and YouTube would have definitely taken this video down. Definitely would have. But quickly we also see that due to this large divide in people, the Hu dynasty will actually start to subjugate the Along dynasty, and the Along dynasty will actually start to fall over as the Long family starts to see various different things happening to them, as many of their subordinates betray them. And quickly we see that a veiled force of around 1,000 arrive in these islands from this guy, and we quickly see that the last fight for these guys sovereignty arrives with the last of their lands being taken except for one, and in a miracle battle they take over. They push back these guys, taking a lot of their lands back and quickly pushing them out of the southern regions completely. We quickly see that due to them pushing out these guys out of the southern regions, they will be able to reconsolidate control over these areas, and they will call upon an army of around 5,000 to come to their aid, and the people of Korea will come to aid these people. Yeah, like that. And quickly we see that a further expansion over here has caused a very large amount of people from these areas to actually join up in the these border areas of the Hu dynasty, to actually join up with the southern Ailung dynasty. I'm gonna say, was it Alung or Ailung? I'm gonna say Ailung because that's easier to remember. Or I'm just gonna name it Long Dynasty. The Long Dynasty quickly makes many gains. It makes 2 battles quite well known for its people, and by well known I mean everyone has access to whatever news they have. And quickly a form of wooden currency is made, and woodcutters are quickly used as currency makers, and well, those who chop wood are given the task to do as much as possible for the nation. Quickly we see the Ailung dynasty will make their grand entrance into the heartlands of the Hu dynasty, cutting them off in the middle, and quickly subjugating these 2 areas. And the last of the Ailung dynasty will fall over to the, well, not I Long, but the Hu dynasty will fall over to the I Long forces, who will then focus on making their mark upon history, quickly doing a large sweep of these areas to make sure no new dynasty comes into these areas, and challenges them into a fight up to the death, or to see which nation is, well, better in any way. Quickly, we also see that due to this, the fall of these guys, new dynasties will come into existence. As we see two new dynasties, the Anyang. I'm not gonna even say their name. I'm just gonna give them random names as they go on. We quickly see that this dynasty over here will become very much known as the dynasty to destroy all dynasties, because this guy vows to avenge the fall of this the Hu dynasty, and they are known as the Hu Yang. The Hu Yang are going to be stopped by a more northern force of Korean people who quickly call themselves the Ainang. The Ainang are very, very no bullshit people. You want to fight with us, you get a fight. We don't care. We don't care. And quickly we see that a fight between these two will become inevitable, where the first to attack is the Huyong. I'm just gonna say Huyong because it's kinda more memorable. The Huyong do manage to do a lot against the Ailong, but they actually not Ailong. These are the Ailong. The Monyong, actually Along. So we see the Alongs having to lose a lot of land before gaining some of it back, and we actually see that due to this, they actually managed to make a incursion in these areas, and they actually ask Ailong to come in and help them. Although these guys do come in to help, they do so with a kind of no, we are going to save you, you are not going to save us attitude, as they are going to just roar through these people and cause these guys to actually fall over to the rest of this area. And we'll quickly see that these areas kind of just do whatever they do. We see that these two dynasties quickly become known as the twin dynasties, and eventually they will actually join up into one through a political marriage that will join both dynasties into one, causing a very large ripple of shock to, well, reverberate through these areas. And quickly we also see some expansion done by the new king of these areas, leader of the dynasty over here. And quickly we also see a northern Chinese dynasty will actually come into existence. It is the Qing. Oh, we have the Qing dynasty, or the Xinshi dynasty. And we quickly see that the Xinshi, the Xinshi dynasty will be quite large. It will be quite populous. I haven't yet put any villages over here. Village structures are still over here, but large-scale villages are not thought of. Small-scale villages, like around 50 to 60 people, that's like the map. And the central areas of the villages are like 20 to 40 people at once. There's 20 to 40 people. And then on the outskirts, there's like 30 to like, not 40, not 40, 20 people. So 20 to 50 people. So yeah. But quickly we see that the Shinji dynasty will actually manage to do a lot of damage to the local peoples over here in the north. Even though they are of the same peoples and the same ethnicity, the Shinji do not care. They don't differentiate between their own and not their own, and they will do whatever they can to possibly do anything to expand. And we quickly see that they will manage to make themselves quite large, but they will also become a menace to society. Well, the societies around here. And yes, they are quite large, but we also see that due to this largeness, a rebellion will quickly spark in the Bay of Nimyang, and that's what they call it. This is the bay, Mingyang, and as we can see, it will start around this area, and the Mingyang rebellion will be known for its ruthless attacking of its enemies, but also saving of its own people. And quickly we see that it will actually take over this, and news of this rebellion will reach will reach the people over here, and everywhere. And quickly we see large amounts of rebellious groups will start to come into existence, most in either the north or the south, just trying to change the local people's thought of them. And quickly we also see that near the capital village, town or village, I should actually put down, near the palace over here, two different rebellions actually grow up into actual threats. And these are these two. While this one is still far, these two actually unite into one, making actually these two the only ones who are very strong. But we quickly see that the Mingyin Bay, as it's now called by the rebels, the Mingyi Bay rebels will start to manage their own forces quite well. They will manage to use them in quite effective ways. But over here, the rebels see large amounts of the lands that they actually managed to gain being lost to the royal guard and the generals. And a general called General Chi will actually be quite capable of taking these areas down, and he will also invade into these areas, also sending down some forces over here to push back these forces, even managing to surround a coastal fort over here by actually just taking out its areas around here. Although he does manage to do that quite successfully, he does acknowledge that the middle areas to access the rest of the nation are lost due to prior dumbassness. He just calls everyone who did not see this rebellion coming and see the rebellious signs that the people were having just dumb. He's calling the other generals dumb, which gets a lot of complaints, but since he's the only one doing a good job, and he's doing everything basically, the emperor just dismisses him entirely and calls him a lunatic. And due to this dismissal, the areas over here actually lose their encirclement, and they lose their advantage of defense over here. Well, not defense, but their advantage of having lands over here. And quickly we see that a counterattack led by a few hundred rebels will actually cause a lot of areas over here to fall over to the local rebellious groups. And quickly we see that large amounts of these forces over here will not be willing to attack their own people, causing a lot of mutinies and will cause a lot of bad stuff to happen. We also see, in addition, a large new rebellion will pop up in the other areas over here that haven't yet given up, and this rebellion is known as the Luyong Dynasty Rebellion. and they quickly take over these areas and start their own invasion of the surrounding lands to, well, take over as much land as possible. But due to them doing so out of the blue, they do not manage to do so this so effectively as they so would like. They do manage to take over this area, but in a counterattack they do lose it, and they just manage to take some areas around here and force the rest of these guys back in these areas, where they actually take over the rest of these forces over here. And quickly we see that these guys over here will cut their losses with the rebellion, managing to actually take over these areas and manage to make their own dynasty. But quickly we see that the last battle for these areas will be held where the rebellion forces will meet the imperial forces over here, and they will actually lose the battle in some form, but they will only lose southern lands because of it. And in the peace agreements, we do see that the imperial state does not stay the same afterwards, but they do manage to hold on to most of the lands. And since they have learned their lesson, they do crack down on the people even more, and they just don't learn a lot. They do learn that cracking too much down on the people and doing whatever they like is a bad example for who is leading them. And quickly we see, due to this large new dynasty over here cutting the people apart, we see 4 dynasties coming out of one, and it quickly just causes a lot of problems over here. And this is probably the most I like the colors over here. I just like them. And we quickly also see a new dynasty forming over here. Although it is small, it is it has a lot of potential, and it quickly exhausts it all by using its large army that it had kind of forced to come into existence, to invade the surrounding areas and, well, invade into the even Manchurian regions that actually, well, the Manchurians are only different by their looks and genetics, as they have had enough time to actually differentiate each other. And there, the Manchurians are marked by flatter noses and more of a tribal appearance, and dirty appearance, as these guys say. But quickly we see that due to this large expansion over here, news of it will reach the Korean dynasty over here, as I'm now going to call it. Well, Ailong, they're still called the Ailong, but they're also calling themselves the Korean dynasty, or the people are calling it that. It's just being called Ailong because of the Ailong ruling family. And as we can see, these guys, we have 3 different ethnicities in this guy, which will not constitute for a good thing, because their capital is all the way over here and everything else is everywhere else. But we do see that this dynasty over here managed to actually survive its post rebellion economic crisis, and managed to actually come back stronger from it, and actually managed to do much more than just expand. I just say that they actually managed to make them their first actual boats, the first actual Chinese design boats that actually had what is known as a keel in our world. These boats over here do have keels, but they're very small, because if there is like trade boats that have like this small keel and a large like round shape and a large like deck, it's like the medieval or Renaissance ships, but just very smaller and made for more cargo. So that's what they're made for. And quickly we see that this different dynasty over here, this more northern Chinese dynasty, will do everything in its power to become more powerful, and it will do so in return for its stability, going down below zero and into the negatives, and even corruption starts to take hold in this nation, which has never been seen in the world, but well, it is currently one of the bigger nations. If we look at like the larger flood, if I look at this, these guys have 8,486 uh, 86 pixel, 846 pixels. So this guy is the largest by far. This is the third, and I'm just gonna say that each of these goes by. Yeah, this is actually bigger than this. Makes sense. But quickly we also see that due to these two not wanting to fall behind in expansion, we see that these two dynasties will actually clash for land, and they will actually have large rivalries. I'm sorry, where? Where do you have a hole in you? Where? Oh, it's the flood mode. I didn't see any hole. I just looked. I was like, wait, is it the flood mode? And it was the flood mode. We quickly also see some areas over here being taken by the rebellion over here that actually managed to survive its economic crisis. Although this guy managed to come out of its economic crisis alright, it did not manage to hold up so well in the later times when it had to expand a bit to gain more land. And why are you still going bigger? My god, what's wrong? So, aha! Now I see you. And there we go. This dynasty quickly becomes very well known as a very great dynasty, and it will take over some of these areas down south. It will also do some crossings over here. It will use the crossings to its advantage to expand south. I forgot these southern parts again, but it does manage to do so quite well, and it actually managed to gain a lot of territory, useful territory that is, and they actually start to use this territory for their advantage, to their advantage. And through some political marriages, we actually see that the local people over here actually start to see the benefit of being a part of another nation that is larger. It has more food for you. It can provide protection, and generally a lot more. So what happens is that these areas kind of just abandon their old country, except for some of the more older parts, just to join this guy over here. And quickly we see that an invasion from the north and a very weird rebellion will cause a very large stir in this nation. Even though they came away from the economic crisis in a positive state, they lost all of that because their leadership was young. Their leader, their regency was very corrupt, and due to that corruptness, they actually lost their entire nation to not only invasions from other countries but losses of their own lands. And as we can see, it causes a large rift between these people, and we also see that these guys over here kind of just take as much land as possible before leaving, and leaving these guys alone. And this new dynasty that comes out of this area is kind of quickly just set on fire by a invasion of the red team over here, who will invade them quite forcefully. They they will focus on the more coastal areas, but after that they will actually focus all their efforts on the entire front line. And due to this, the Yellow Rebellion will actually say, okay, you can take our lands, just leave us be. We are already crippled. Please let us live. And due to this, they are known as the weakest rebellion of the Chinese peoples, either northern or not. It will be known as the weakest of them all. And quickly, we also see that they will actually do negative population status as they start to lose population due to people going out into these areas and just inhabiting these areas. We do see that they do manage to claim these areas, but that's only a name. They do not manage to actually enforce their claims, and a lot of these areas do not manage to abide by the clique rules. These guys already have their own clique, so they are very well off already. Kind of weird, but as you can see, this guy has a lot to do over here. It's already trying to take control of these areas. It has some areas over here that it's already managing to have a large amount of control over, but local bandit groups and raiding and other things cause them to constantly lose control of some areas while actually gaining more in others, which causes them a lot of destabilization, but they do manage to hold on to it. I'm just going to color it in because next episode we're gonna see what happens to these nations. As this chapter of nations have just begun, and as you can see, they're even more noticeable already. And yeah, we're going to see a lot of stuff happening over here. We also see that in another kind of political alliance, these two kind of just joined forces a bit, and that was after this guy, the daughter of this guy's, this nation's, well, how do I say, emperor, kind of just, should I say king? What was the term for those guys? I'm gonna have to change it up because I'm just gonna call them kings for now. And the king over here was kind of like, okay, you can marry my daughter as long as we can just remain allies and you don't invade me. And the deal was made, but then it was betrayed as fast as it was made. So yeah, these guys kind of lost their sovereignty. But the king, she kind of got bold and tried to kind of invade these areas over here, seeking to just manage, well, seeking to only take these areas and expand their coastal territory, as currently having more coastal territory means more ports. The more ports you have, the more fish you can pull in, and the more fish you can pull in, the more sushi you can make. And so they just go on the port areas and start to invade them. Big mistake, as you can see. These guys retaliate immediately, starting to take over these areas. Although they do not manage to retake all of that, they do manage to cut off the local army over here, and they do manage to actually cut off this region over here, causing its entire collapse. And even the bay over here is threatened, the birthplace of the capital, and the capital is actually already over here. So the capital right here, and the emergency capital is the old palace, or this area over here. But we quickly see that these guys will stop and just take over that area, and when their demands are not satisfied, they will even go further into these areas and say, okay, you're gonna give us all of this, or you're not gonna have a nation to rule over. Also, we're going to invade more if you don't mind. And I say that they do mind, but the red guys don't care. And after another refusal, and a siege of the capital over here will be done, but the leader of this area is not seen until they are found over here in the old palace, which will be taken forcefully. But after large amounts of losses, the rebellion over here falls, and we see that it falls over not that gracefully. So we have the cleanup of 2 more cliques over here, and we also see that over here in the north, rebellious groups will start to form up into actual nations, and we quickly see that a small nation over here of around, well, how do I say this, a few dozen people. Well, these people are actually kind of not really caring about who kind of governs them, but as we can see, they just kind of take over these areas, partially because they can and partially because that's the areas that they actually see as their own, and they quickly use the control of these areas to their advantage, as they start to actually use these areas as springboards for further invasions into other areas, causing very weird things to happen. I'm just gonna say that these guys may look like they're going to rebel, and that's because they are. But as we can see, these areas very much want their independence, but they can't get it because yeah. Actually, I'm gonna have to do something like this. Yep. Hold up, guys. I'm gonna just do some stuff real quick. Gonna take me a bit. Don't worry. Like I said, it's gonna take me only a bit. Not a big deal. Won't take me 5 years. POV takes me 5 years. But we do see that a lot of these areas actually start to be known as untouchable by the local people, who actually just don't see it as untouchable. They just think it's untouchable because the people just kind of just banded together and aren't being, well, fought against by the local government. And quickly we see that due to this, they will have large amounts of people just going against large amounts of forces. But due to this, we also see that eventually they will actually cause a rebellion to stir up in these areas, which will be at first unrecognized by the people over here who kind of did do the rebellion. But quickly seeing this, the Northern Chinese nation over here is like, okay, we're just gonna hold on to this area, which they almost did not manage to hold on to, but they did manage. Somehow they did, and only in partially, of course. But after the loss of those 2 islands and the loss of these areas, because the rest of this was kind of just taken over by the clique over here. Well, not the clique, but the dynasty. And, well, yeah. By the way, the Ailong dynasty treats their people way better than the Chinese do. And these Manchurian people actually kinda do have the same treatment towards the people as the Ailongs do. But after a large Ailong helped counterattack on these guys over here, caused the fall of a entire army over here, these areas were taken over by the Ailong forces, and quickly we also see that due to the fall of these areas, these areas are kind of just taken over. I very much like the word these areas, because it's very descriptive. I don't want to say them a lot, but I do. I just do. And we see that in the local region over here, in this peninsula, a local of these areas will see a large army go through his lands of mixed origin, and they will confront the general in the fortress over here, and they will say, give us the entire peninsula, or we will go on and destroy your entire nation. He will refuse, and his fortress is taken by force. Quickly we see that the news of this whole thing reaches these guys over here, who quickly send in an invasion force of around 1,000, who will actually start to make large progress in the north, and well, not in the north but in the western parts, but they will be stalled around in the south, while in the west they do manage to make more successes happen. They also take over the areas behind this army over here, and they manage to crush this army quite well, causing the rest of these areas to actually rebel in the support for the you know, the Ailong army. And the Ailongs will actually treat these people in kindness, and this will only serve to help them out, as when a army of around 1,000 tries to take a roundabout over here and tries to cut off the Ailong army, the Ailong army sees this coming and cuts them off entirely, and they will be situated in a fortress over here. And after a double attack from all sides, this entire area will be lost, and an invasion by these two guys will actually happen. One will happen because they want to retake territory that they had actually lost, and the other was just to expand. So yeah. And quickly we see that 3 invasions at once do not hold up well for this nation, as they quickly fall over to mass rebellions in every part of the nation. As we can see, large rebellions do come into existence, but smaller ones quickly join them, even though they make this weird looking rebellion thing, which quickly becomes very border gory. We see that this causes a large amount of the of the Northern Chinese nation forces to just fall over. They just fall over. They don't want to fight their people. They don't agree to fighting their people. It's like fighting these Xinjiang forces that were once there all over again. But a different rebellious group over here will subjugate some of the rebellious groups over here and start to invade in these areas. Even though these guys hold support from the Ailongs will not invade further into these areas, as they will actually give over some of these territories to these guys, even though they kinda don't want to allow these guys to take more land. They just do, and eventually we see that the Ailong dynasty will actually stop their conquests around here, where they will annex the rest, and these areas will go over to, well, you guess to, but these areas will actually be quite anti this guy, but they will just do what they are told. Eventually, this rebellion manages to garner enough support from the people to actually start to continue their attacks. But as you can see, these guys over here had already done enough. The capital was already lost by the time that the rebellion people managed to defend it right in the right way. And we see that due to this large defeat over here, they were forced to give up a large amount of land, both to the enemies and to the reclaimists. And, well, the expansionists and reclaimists who want to reclaim their own lands. And we quickly see that due to this, the rebellion over here that managed to come into existence will start to be quite of a nuisance for the new government. Well, not new government, but new family who's in power. And quickly we see that these areas are taken over, but when the new forces over here tried to attack and take over these areas, they were quickly hampered humbled by large amounts of their people actually just saying, no, we're not gonna help you anymore. We're done with you. We're done with your nation. We're just gonna go over here and declare our own independences. We will just help this new rebellion. We just don't care. And rebellions do come into existence, with the largest of them being this one, and the smallest being this one too. Although it's the smallest, it's still kinda very small, and it's like it's very small in its population, but the amount of troops that they have is disproportionate to their entire population. And we quickly see that due to this large multiple, we quickly see that a large multiple amounts, that many multiple areas over here will quickly give their regions over to the rebels, and even some areas near the capital itself, rebels to take form in the form of attackers. Quickly we see that invasions of these two invasion forces over here will start to close in on these forces, who will actually quickly just be like, you know what, let's declare a local autonomous region, our own nation. And they do so. Although it quickly does become a large nation, it is forced on the banners of this nation, and and the regions that it holds will also come under, well, yeah. But as we can see, it is given large amounts of lands, and even some of the rebellions lands are given over to it for its cooperation, and it shall do so after these guys kind of took these areas. And yeah, we quickly see that after all of that, wars, local wars between villages start to happen because of the large scale anarchy and famine and all of that. Food was so scarce that villages started to hoard it, and other villages that didn't have it started to attack other villages that did have it. Or yeah. Quickly, we see that we have a large amount of enemy troops of the, no, not enemy troops, but the rebellion troops pushing into these areas and taking over the local regions. Well, administrative points. And quickly, we also see that these areas over here given over to this guy, so they can also invade and take lands. And they quickly do so very gracefully, as they just blitz through this guy's entire area, this nation's entire area, and they start to march down south to take out these guys, while also helping to do some other stuff, like helping these guys take over all of the central parts of these areas, and they will also go on and take over these areas. Just because they can, and just because they could, they did, and they won, basically. We quickly see that after all of this, these areas will be used as like their own little regions, and this guy was left to defend, to attack on its own, and quickly a encirclement of the local troops will be done. And after a quick talk about who gets what land, we quickly see that these forces will actually start to push in on this large palace over here, and due to the losses over here that were inflicted, the palace over here is destroyed in the most brutal way possible, and a new little puppet government for these guys is forced onto this area. Even though it does not want a puppet government, it is forced to have one, and it will not be integrated just yet, but it will have puppet status. So yeah, that's basically what happens over here. We also see that this guy also expands over here into Manchurian and North Chinese areas, as well as Minhyun. areas who have been kind of moving around over here. As you can see, they actually take some northern Chinese peoples over here. They take a lot of areas. Actually, they take some non-inhabited areas. So let me just real quick. Yeah. This looks very good. This looks surprisingly very good. Yes, this is perfect. This is remarkably perfect, and I like it. But yeah, this video has gone on for too long. It's over an hour long. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, guys. I got carried away. I'll make this its own movie. I'll just call it the whatever it's called. I'm just gonna go now. Have a great day. Bye bye.